would he sing at home?
Whatever came into his head, really. I mean, there wouldn't be songs, a lot of them. They would just be whatever he was talking about would be to music, virtually.
You know what this reminds me of, don't you?
What? Oh, yes. Ruining the music, this is. You'll go all bang in a minute.
Don't
I can't help it.
Was it a starry sort of household? Were there celebrity names popping in all the time?
Not that many. I mean, I met quite a few celebrities. When for instance, if I went up to see a show or something, we'd always go backstage afterwards. You know, I used to enjoy that, and we used to watch shows from side stage. But no, it was really just quite normal in that we'd have more friends down, and some were in showbiz and some weren't.
Did he like having you in the audience? Would he ask you what you thought and how it had gone?
Yes, he'd always get our names in. At some stage of the act, he'd mention our names, you know, which we would love that. Yeah, he'd love to have us in the audience.
And he enjoyed meeting the great stars himself, didn't he? He worshipped Charlie Chaplin, for instance, didn't he?
Absolutely, yes. That's going back a bit, isn't it? And yes, he's got all the pictures, wonderful pictures.
I went out there, knocked on the door, and out came the security bloke or whatever. And he said, yes, what do you want? So I said, well, I'd like to see Mr. Chaplin. He said, nobody sees Mr. Chaplin. Sorry about that, and slammed the door. So we went to a phone call, and I made the call, and I got them, yes, what do you want? Let's see. And I said, oh, this is Norman Wisdom here. I'd like to have a chat with Mr. Chaplin. I have an appointment, rest assured, and all that sort of thing. And before you know what happened, he came on the phone, Charlie Chaplin. And he said, yeah, who is that? I said, it's Norman Wisdom. He said, oh, cool, yeah, come round. And he knew. I went round, and he'd heard of me, seen me, and we went in, and we were about an hour and a half. And we did the walk together. He knew my walk.
Did he make you laugh?
Oh, definitely, yes, and still does. I mean, and stupid things really, but really just it's all visual.
Yeah. What makes you laugh?
Well, it's a stupid thing really. I mean, he in the latter years he used to tour. I mean, he might go Bournemouth, Norwich, and all that sort of thing around. They'd go in a coach, and the driver wasn't the greatest at planning his routes, and I think he drove, let's say, from Bournemouth to Norwich, and he wouldn't have planned his route, and he'd be wrestling with the coach on the motorway, reading the map at the same time. And of course my father would take that off beautifully, because he'd have one hand on the steering wheel pretending to flick over the pages, and then, you know, and it was just the way he was. You can just imagine it happening. Yes. But people don't imagine that. They would imagine the stars sort of turning up in a jet and landing at an airport, and he's going along on a coach and arriving half an hour before the start of the show. What do you think the secret of both of his comedy and of his sort of timelessness as a popular entertainer has been? What's his secret? Well, a lot of people say to me, you know, it's good, clean comedy. And I suppose his sense of timing is spot on. That's what makes him what he is. But there aren't many like him at the moment. I can't think of anybody. I think there's no throwbacks to the Norman Wisdom era I can think of, really.
What about your friends when you were growing up? How did they take to him? Could he be an embarrassment when you were a teenager?
Not really, because when I was a teenager, I mean, he was working very hard. I didn't see him that much. He wasn't at home that much, really. I mean, he'd go abroad. He went to Broadway, and he'd be filming. So he'd have a flat in London, and he'd be up there for some time, and he'd come down weekends. So he wasn't at home that much. But when he was, no, he was you know, there was just, to my friends, he was quite a normal person, really.
So he wouldn't feel obliged to fool around and trip and when you were trying to impress your girlfriend?
Well, he would. We would have snooker even. We had a snooker table, and friends would come around. We played snooker and table tennis, and he was terrible if he was losing at table tennis. You know, he'd start coughing just as you were about to hit your ball, and, you know, and of course that would just start everything. Everyone would be, you know, you'd never win. Put it that way. He'd make sure he won by foul means usually.
He did love his sport, didn't he?
Very much into sport. He was a director of Brighton and Hove Albion, a local club down here, and that was in 1965. And then he loves his boxing. He used to box in the army, and in everything actually, football, athletics. He was into everything.
And he said in his memoirs that no father could be prouder than he was than the day that you were chosen to play cricket for Sussex.
Well, I only had 3 first-class games, but I can say I have played for my county. But yes, shame I couldn't do better for him, but yes, he was pleased for me.
He travelled a lot in his career, as you were saying, which must have meant there were long periods when you didn't see very much of him. Was that hard, or you just get used to it?
You get used to it, really. We had a housekeeper who was, you know, looking after us. My mother and father split up when I was 15, and after that we had a housekeeper, and she was wonderful, and so you do get used to it, but, you know, I would have liked to have seen a bit more of him.
And he became something of a national hero in Albania, of all places. How did he get involved in that?
Well, I think they were brought up on his films, and I think it's never changed. I don't think they're not allowed X certificate or 18, as they call it, films, or 50, so it's Norman Wisdom, a diet of Norman Wisdom all the way through, and they've just relate to him. I think when he went over there, he was driving around in the deposed dictator's car.
And he loved going, didn't he? He really enjoyed feeling that he was a national hero.
He did, yes. I wish I'd gone with him, actually. I don't know why I didn't ask, but yes, it's quite amazing. You know, the sort of adoration, and he, you know, he went on. I think Albania were playing England in an international match, a friendly, and he went on at half time, and the referee had to tell him to leave the pitch.
What interests me about Norman Wisdom is that he's got the persona of the cheeky chap and the perky personality, which clearly was him, but he was also a rather driven man, wasn't he? I mean, he was always trying to perfect his act, thinking about how to improve it, how to achieve the next step.
Yeah. Well, he basically would not stop until it was perfection. I mean, he would work through the night, you know, things like dance routines, and he just had to be right. That was it. That's the way to make it to the top, I suppose. You just keep working hard, and there was no shortcuts for him.
Now, a man like that doesn't retire very easily. Was it hard work to get him to announce that he was retiring?
Well, my sister and I got the blame. We were told, it was said in the papers that we told him, you know, he had to retire. In fact, he always said he would retire at 90. So we'll put the record straight there. But you know, he's wanted to do a film. There was a film called Adam and Evil, and it's been going on for about 35 years now, and he still thinks he's going to do it. And you know, I think reality has to kick in sometime. I don't think it's going to happen, but it was a shame he never made that film. It was very, very close, and I don't think they could quite come up with the finances. But yes, he has basically retired, short of, you know, there might be just something in the pipeline, little chat show or something like that down the line, but he has basically retired.
Does he still play to the camera, though? Does he still perform instinctively?
Yes, and I think one of his strengths is he always knows when a camera is on him, whether it's someone taking a photograph of him. He knows, he catches them out of the corner of his eye, and you know, he'll drop his shoulder and go the other way for them, or you know, then I suppose that's a bit of a gift to just know. You know, no one will ever catch him unawares on film. He's looking straight at the camera lens.
I love the way he even performed for the Queen when he was knighted in the year 2000.
I was devastated, to be honest with you, because I was at the back of the hall, and all the people who were going to be commemorated